Shame that tune!
Welcome to Matt Truipia. Okay, Matt, give that wheel a good spin. Audience is the last time, so shout out what you really hope comes up. Really shout it out. Spin that again. Yes. Spin it again. Here we go. Spin. Oh my gosh. One more. Spin it again. Oh my God. Oh my God. Woo! And it's. Do you want us to spin it again? Yeah. Okay.
Little Chicago.
Like Chicago. Sweet emotion. Okay. Okay, Matt, so you're good to go. Tell your shameful story. You have 3 minutes on your mark. Get set. Shane.
I was a freshman in college. We moved into a dorm called Bromley Hall. This is in the University of Illinois. And my family, we had a family meeting, and we discussed, and since my brother, before me, is 2 years older, had a really bad experience with a roommate, that I would get like a single room by myself, so I could sort of really have my own space and really find my way. And so we drove down as a family to Bromley Hall, and the elevator was broken. I was living on the 13th floor. We carried all my belongings up to the 13th floor on the stairwell into this really small dorm room that was maybe like 6 feet by 8 feet. And I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody there. So I was pretty confident. I had this image in my mind that if I started playing music that I liked, it would sort of like trickle down the hallways. Yeah. And that people that like that kind of music would sort of just kind of like hang out and like flock towards the door. So I'd like turn on my rap music and like look out the door occasionally and just see if anybody was like, yeah, hey, what's up? Kind of milling. That didn't happen. So after a couple experiments, I decided I need to go out on campus and find something to do. So I auditioned for a sketch comedy group. I got in. It was sort of an established sketch comedy group on campus that was full of sort of senior and grad student type of older dudes, and I was really happy to get in. I was really excited. And our first show was at a community center on campus, and I was really excited to kind of write a sketch and get it in the show and sort of show off to these guys and prove that I had some kind of talent in that regard. So I wrote this really derivative, this sort of hack sketch about a traveling salesman who went door to door trying to sell this doll made out of ground beef. And it had like glass in it. It's really terrible sketch. And it had like little pieces. And I was really adamant. I like held forth to the group that this doll really needed to be made out of ground beef. Like Play-Doh is not good. The joke is in the fact this is real gross, like disgusting raw beef. So they're like, oh, all right, that's fine, I guess. So I went to the grocery store, and I bought this ground beef, and I made this doll, and I put pieces of plastic in it, and we put it in the freezer of the community center because the backstage was like the kitchen. You're performing in like a stage where they do different community events and local dances or whatever. So the kitchen was our backstage, and they had all their food for their own personal events there. And we did the sketch, and it was medium received. Pretty sort of steady, tepid applause to it. And I was like, yeah, did it.
Familiar with that.
Yeah. I was like, all right, I proved my point artistically. The sketch went off. The meat looked disgusting on stage, exactly the effect I was looking for. And then when we finished the show, I got off backstage, and we saw the administrator of the community center sort of standing there, like, just all the blood drained out of his face, like, aghast. And I was like, what's going on? This is like my moment of triumph. I was so excited that my meat sketch was in there. And he had seen the sketch and seen the meat, and looked in his freezer where we were storing it. And of course, the place that we had done the show at was called the Hillel Foundation. It's a Jewish community center. And they kept kosher in the kitchen, as they're wont to do. And so all the food in the freezer, in a whole kitchen, every surface where the meat had been sort of laying out, where I had like molded it before the show and sort of was playing with it, the freezer where I started with all the kosher food, all had to be thrown out. the look on this guy's face, and I just didn't understand. And it was at that moment that I realized I crossed some kind of cultural boundary that I just never even considered. At that age, I just wasn't even thinking, I don't know, that there were like even other cultures or something. But he lectured us for a long time, and just like he couldn't catch his breath, and he was so aghast at this type of like contempt that I hadn't seen at that age on a person's face, and it was because of me. We were just kind of like sheepish. Like the more aghast he became, like the more sheepish I became. I just didn't know how to react to this type of lecture, and he explained that they would have to have a rabbi come in, fly a rabbi in, and recertify the whole kitchen, throw out all the food. All for the sketch that I demanded. Use this ground beef when it could have easily, and that's the story. That's when I sort of realized that was my true calling. And I became, culturally sensitive at that point too. So I think that was the real important point of that story.
Truipia.